Hi guys, this week we're going to be continuing our learning with me making some videos here. So last week I asked you to watch a short video on Khan Academy and then try an exercise on Khan Academy with that type of work. This is our new unit of factoring or dividing polynomials. Okay, so in that video they described the common factor, so factoring out that common factor. We're going to go ahead and continue with that today, and you'll hear me teach it as I would have taught it in class if we were together. So just a few things as you go through this video. I encourage you to have a pencil and a piece of paper and be ready to jot some notes down so that can help you with your practice later, or just because that is a known way of understanding things better is to write that down and kind of go along. So you would be doing that in class if we were taking notes together. So just kind of keep that up. If you do have any questions, please make sure you're emailing me. Feel free to communicate with your friends in class through email with them or through texting or calling them. But do make sure that you're staying safe and healthy, and make sure that you are following those guidelines for being quarantined, and that will help us get to be back in school faster. Okay, so on with some greatest common factor notes here of how I would taught it in class, and then I will explain the practice that I will want you to try. Okay, please try to keep up with your work. I know not just in my class, but all the other classes. And I feel like, this is kind of the best way for us to really learn and do our work, is me making these videos for you, because you're still hearing me teach, but not seeing me in person, okay? So GCF is what we usually say, but it is greatest common factor, okay? So just making sure here that we understand that. So this would be greatest common factor. Okay, greatest mean you're going to be looking for the biggest or the largest. Okay, common meaning every single term has to have it. So every term has the number, or it could be a letter, or a variable. Okay, and then the factor, meaning the things that multiply. So we're going to be looking at the things that multiply to make up these numbers or variables. But GCF is that first thing that you always want to look for when you are factoring a polynomial. Okay. We are going to be learning some other methods, and those videos will be coming down the line, a few more before spring break time, and then probably a few more after. I'm going to try to reasonably break this up, have a lesson and practice, and then kind of recap some of the things in a few lessons. Okay, so we are finding the largest factor that is common to every single term. Go ahead and take a look at factors, remind ourselves of what factors are, and kind of just get the hang of that with numbers at first. So if I'm looking at the number 12 here, okay, the factors of 12, so the numbers that multiply to give me 12, that's what factors are 1 and 12. 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times 6, that's also 12, and 3 times 4, that is also 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12 are the factors of 12. Okay, so now let's go ahead and compare two numbers. So we still have 12 here. Notice we have those factors. Okay, and now I'm going to say, let's look at the number 20. So when I look at the number 20, the things that multiply to give me 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to find their greatest common factor. So I want to find the largest factor that they have in common. So I'm going to go circle the ones that they have in common. So I notice that they have 1 in common, they have 2 in common, they have 4 in common. Okay, the other numbers they don't have in common. They don't both have those. So now when I say the greatest common factor is going to be 4, because that is that largest number that they both share. Okay, so yes, they have 1 in common, yes, they have 2 in common, but 4 is that greatest common factor. Okay, so let's go ahead and just, I'm going to show a few more examples here of how to get those factors and then find the greatest common factor. Okay, and that will help us with our work when we go to actually factor polynomials. Okay, so when I look at 27, 1 and 27, if you don't know how to find the factors, you know, like on your calculator now, I can say, okay, I did 1, so now I'm going to do 2. So take 27 divided by 2, and it doesn't give you a whole number, so that means it's not a factor. Okay, 27 divided by 3 is 9, so 3 and 9 are factors of 27. Okay, I mean, if you keep going, you're not going to find any of them, except you will run back into 9 and you'll run back into 27. Okay, so 1 and 27 and 3 and 9. Okay, now moving on to the number 18 here. Obviously 1 and itself, so 1 and 18. Divide that by 2, you get 9, so 2 and 9 are also factors. Divide that by 3, you get 3 and 6, those are also factors. If you divide it by 4, doesn't give you a whole number. Divide it by 5, doesn't give you a whole number, and then you're back to 6. Well, I already have 6 listed, so I know I'm done. Okay, so now if I want to find that greatest common factor, I'm going to go find the ones they have in common. So they have 1 in common, they have 3 in common, and they have 9 in common. So their GCF is 9. That is the largest number that they have in common. Okay, looking at number 2 here, 120. So the factors of 100, 1 and 100, 2 and 50. 3 doesn't go in there, 4 and 25. 5 and 20. 6 doesn't go in there, 7 doesn't go in there, 8 doesn't go in there, 9 doesn't go in there, but 10 does, 10 times 10. Okay, and if you were to keep going, then you would get back to 20, 25, 50, and so on. Okay, but because 10 repeated there, I knew I was done. Okay, the factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Okay, and maybe some of you are like, oh, now like that I did 100, I see it. But again, if I go circle those common factors, they have 1 in common, 2 in common, 4 in common, 5 in common, 10 in common, and they have 20 in common. So they have a lot of common factors, but again, that greatest common factor is 20. That's the biggest. Okay. If you feel like you're good to go, go ahead and continue on with the video. If you feel like you want to practice that a little bit on your own, go ahead and pause the video and try the next 2, and then when you're done with them, go ahead and start the video again, and I am gonna go over them. All right, so if you tried number 3 and 4 here, the factors of 25 are 1 and 25 and 5 times 5. Factors of 45, 1 and 45, okay, 3 and 15, and 5 and 9. Okay, so again, I can see that they have in common 1 and 5. The largest one that they have in common is 5. So the GCF for 25 and 45 is 5. Okay, 35 here, the factors are 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. The factors of 26 are 1 and 26, 2 and 13. Okay. If you look at this, the only factor that they have in common is 1. Sometimes that happens. So for these 2 numbers, the GCF is 1. Okay. So I want to do a little bit of review here, just kind of tell you like how this is going to relate to what we've been doing before. But if you remember when in our last unit, when we multiplied polynomials, it looked just like the distributing property. So I would distribute the 10 here. Okay, so 10 times 3x is 30x, and 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. Okay, on here on number 6, 6x times x is 6x squared, and 6x times 7 is 42x. okay? So in our last unit, we were given something with those parentheses, okay? This unit, we're going to be given something like what we got for our answers here on 5 and 6, and we're going to go backwards to the problem. So factoring out that GCF is reverse distributing. We're going to be doing the opposite. We're going to go back to that distribution. Okay, so for example here, if I have this polynomial of 15p plus 25, I want to find the greatest common factor between those two terms. Okay, so when I look at this, I have to think about the 15 and the 25, and the greatest common factor that they have is 5. Okay, they do not share that variable, that letter p. They do not have that in common. The 25 does not have a p with it, so that's not part of their GCF. That will be coming in just a little bit though. Okay, so if I find that that is the GCF, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to divide by that. So each of these terms I'm going to divide by 5. Okay, so I'm going to put that GCF outside, and then when I divide, I'm going to put what's left in the parentheses there. So 15 divided by 5 is 3, leave the p, we didn't do anything with that, plus, and then 25 divided by 5 is 5. So factoring that 15p plus 25, our answer is 5 times 3p plus 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Right, I had a few more. So number 7 here, when I'm looking at 10x minus 8, okay, if you really still need to write out the factors, then go for that. So like the factors of 10 are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. The factors of 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Okay, so you should see that 2 is that greatest common factor that they have. So I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to start my sets of parentheses there, and then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to divide each term by that GCF. Okay, so I'm going to take 10x divided by 2, and I get 5x. I didn't do anything with the x, so it stays there. And now we have to be careful here. I'm taking negative 8 divided by 2, and that is negative 4. Okay, so that is that final answer. That's what we're looking for. Remember that if you were to distribute this back out, so 2 times 5x, that's 10x, and 2 times negative 4, that's negative 8, I get what the original problem is. Okay? Looking at number 8 there, the factors of 7, 1 and 7, the factors of 14, 1 and 14, and 2 and 7. So 7 is that greatest common factor that they have. So I'm going to write that down, start my parentheses there, and then I'm going to divide each term by 7. So the first one, 7x divided by 7. Well, 7 divided by 7 is 1. I'm not going to write it, but then I still have my x. Okay, and then plus 14 divided by 7 is 2. And again, if I were to distribute that, I would get back to the original problem. So that is my final answer. Now you are going to see variables in here. So a few things you need to remember is that x cubed really means x times x times x. I have 3 of those x's. Okay, so you're going to see something that looks like this, 5x to the 4th minus 2x squared. Well, I want to think about the numbers first, so 5 and 2. If I list the factors of 5, it's 1 and 5. The factors of 2 are 1 and 2. So the greatest common factor they have is 1. Okay, so 1 is the number. Now I want to look at those variables. So one of them has x to the 4th and the other has x squared. So remember, this means x times x times x times x, and this one means x times x. So how many x's do they have in common? Well, here they have 2 and they have 2. They don't have these extra 2 in common, so they have 2 x's in common, so x squared is that greatest common factor. So right here, 1x squared is that greatest common factor. We're going to divide by x squared. Okay, 5x to the 4th divided by x squared is 5. 5 divided by 1 is 5. Then I had 4 x's and I took 2 out, so I only have 2 left. Minus 2 divided by 1 is 2. I had 2 x's and I'm taking 2 out, so I don't have any left. So my final answer there is x squared times 5x squared minus 2. Again, if I distribute that, I get back to that original problem. So let's go ahead and take a look here at a few more. So on number 9 here, I have 12x squared plus 16x. So first I'm going to look at 12 and 16. So the factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. The factors of 16, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Okay, so when I look at that, I see that they have 1 in common, they have 2 in common, and they have 4 in common. Okay, so 4 is the greatest common factor. So I'm going to write that down right here. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to look at the x squared and the x. So x squared, remember that means x times x, and then x just means 1x. So how many do they have in common? I can circle 1 on each that they have in common. So I'm going to take that 1x and put it here. So 4x is the greatest common factor. Now I can put my parentheses, and I'm going to divide by 4x on each term. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. X squared divided by x is x, plus 16 divided by 4 is 4, and then x divided by x is gone. X divided by itself is gone. So I had 1, I took it out, it's gone. Here I had 2, and I took 1 out, so there's 1 left that I had to put down here in my answer. Okay, here I took 1 out, so it's gone. Okay, looking at number 10. Now remember, if it doesn't have a number in front of it, it's a 1. So that is a 1, and this is a 20. Well, 1 only has factors of 1, so the greatest common factor that they have is 1. Okay, so now I want to look at my x's. Here, I have 4 of them. Here, I have 3 of them. How many do they have in common? Well, here's 3 and here's 3. This one has an extra 1, so that's going to be left over. Okay, so they have 3 in common, so I'm going to come down here and write x cubed. And then I can start my parentheses. Remember, this was 1. You don't have to put it. You can put it. I'm not going to count that wrong. But you really shouldn't write that. Okay, so I'll erase it. And then here I'm going to divide each term by x cubed. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. And then there were 4 x's, and I took 3 of them out, so there is 1 left. So I'm going to put 1 here. Okay, minus 20 divided by 1 is 20. And then there were 3 x's, and I'm taking all 3 of them away, so there's none left. So that's gone. So there is my final answer. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a few more here. Hopefully you're doing these with me as I continue on with the video. There will be another set that I would encourage you to try on your own. So pause the video and then go through the work and look at it to see if you got the answers right. You could do that with these if you'd like, but I'm just going to go through a few more examples here and then continue on. Okay, so when I look at number 1 here, I want to look at 36 and 4 first. So the numbers that they have in common, if you want to write them out, the factors of 36, 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Okay, and the factors of 4 are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. So 4 would be that largest number that they have in common. So I'm going to put 4. And then when I look at these two terms, the 4 doesn't have a k with it. So they do not share any variables. So I'm just taking out the 4. So I can put my parentheses, divide by 4, and I get 9k squared plus 1. And that is the final answer. Okay, over here at number 2, if I look at 6 and 8, the largest number that they share is 2. So I'm going to take out a 2. Okay, if I look at them, this one has 3 r's and this has 2. So if you have to write them out, go for it. But they do have 2 in common. Okay, so I'm going to write 2r squared there and then put my parentheses, and now I'm going to divide by 2r squared on each term. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. I had 3 and I'm taking these 2 out, so I have 1 left. And then minus 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then I had 2 and I'm taking both of them out, so there's no r's there. So that is my final answer. Okay, number 3, 36 and 27. Again, I already have my factors of 36 listed right here, so that's really nice. So now I'm just going to list the factors of 27. 1 and 27, 3 and 9. So it looks like 9 is that, for this problem, 9 is that biggest number that they share. Okay, so I'm going to take out a 9. And then this has 2 n's, this has 3 n's. How many do they have in common? Well, there's 2 here and 2 here. Okay, there's an extra one there, but I'm going to take 2 out of each, so n squared. And now I'm going to divide by 9n squared on both terms. Okay, so 36 divided by 9 is 4. I had 2 and I'm taking 2 out, so they're gone, so I'm not going to write any n's. Minus 27 divided by 9 is 3. And then there were 3 n's and I'm taking 2 of them out, so there's 1 n left. So that is the final answer. Okay, on number 4. Well, the only factors of 5 are 1 and 5 does go into 20. So 5 is going to be that greatest common factor for the numbers. And then if I look at the k's, this one has 9. You can write them all out if you want, but I want you to look back up here at number 2 and number 3. Notice that they have in common the lowest number of the exponent. So like here on number 2, they had 2 in common. 2 is the lowest exponent on the variable. On number 3, they had 2 in common. Lowest exponent right there. So over here on number 4, they have 6 in common. This right here has 6, and I can take 6 out of this 9. So k to the 6th power. Now I'm going to divide by 5k to the 6th. 5k to the 6th. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. 9k's take away 6 is 3. So k to the 3rd. And then plus 5 divided by 5 is 1. And there were 6 and I took them out, so there's no k's left. So if it works out to that, you do have to write the 1. Okay, so 5 divided by 5 is 1. There were no k's to write, so if there's nothing really to write, you do have to write that 1. Okay, number 5, 7 and 10. The largest common factor that they have is 1, so I'm not really dividing by a number. But if I look at this, they have 3 r's here and 2 r's here, so they have 2 in common. So r squared is that greatest common factor. Going to divide by r squared. 7 divided by 1 is 7. There were 3 and I'm taking 2 out, so there's 1 left. Minus 10 divided by 1 is 10. And there were 2 r's and I'm taking them both out, so that is that final answer. Okay, number 6 here. Looking at 63 and 81, get into some larger numbers. Again, you can write out the factors if you wish. I like to kind of go to the smaller number, so like 63, right? If I go to 63, I can find out that, I can go through all the factors, but 9 is the biggest number that they share. And then if I look at the ends, this has 3, this has 2, so I'm going to be taking 2 out. They have 2 in common, so n squared there, okay? So parentheses there, and I'm going to divide by that 9n squared on both terms. So 63 divided by 9 is 7. 3 n's, take 2 out, is 1, so there's 1 left, minus 81 divided by 9 is 9, and there were 2 n's and I'm taking 2 out, so there are no n's left. So that is my final answer for number 6. Okay. All right, just going through a few more here. They don't all have to have 2 terms. It can be a trinomial. But again, they all have a greatest common factor here. Okay. So when I look at this, I might immediately think, oh, they have 6 in common, but that number 21 doesn't have 6 as a factor, so I can't use 6. All 3 terms have to have that greatest common factor. Okay, so the biggest number that they share is 3, and they do not all have x's. This 21 has no x's, so they do not all share x's, so I can't take any out. So all I'm going to be doing is dividing by 3 on each of these terms. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and I leave the x squared. Negative 12 divided by 4 is, divided by 3 is negative 4, leave the x. And then 21 divided by 3 is 7. So there is that final answer for that trinomial. Taking a look at another one here. If I look at the 12, the 8, and the 6, the largest common factor, maybe some of you are thinking 4 because of the 8 and the 12, but 4 doesn't go into 6 nicely. So I have to think differently. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Well, 2 goes into both of those other numbers. So 2 would be the greatest common factor number. And then if I look, they all do have some x's, so that means that they have some in common. So this one has 3, this one has 2, and this one has 1. So they only have 1 in common. So I'm going to take that 1 out here. And then my parentheses, so I'm going to divide by 2x on each of these terms. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. There's 3 x's, take 1 away is x squared, minus 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2x's, take 1 out. There's 1 left. And negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And then x, take away an x out. They're gone. Notice that in here, they have nothing left in common. So that is my final answer. Okay, taking a look at adding a little bit more to it here. Same process, but now instead of just looking at the numbers and one variable, I have to look at the numbers, the a's, and the b's for this problem. Okay, so looking at 24, 16, and 64. Again, I'm going to go to the smaller number, the factors of 16, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 and 4. Well, okay, 8. 8 goes into 64, 8 goes into 24, so that is going to be 8. So 8 is what that greatest common factor is. Okay, looking at the a's, this one has 2, this one has 1, this one has 1. So they'll only have 1 in common. So there's A. Looking at the b's, this one has 2, this one has 4, this one has 3. They only have 2 in common. The lowest one, remember, they only have 2 in common. So I'm going to take that out of each term. I'm going to divide by that. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 8ab squared. And then I'm going to put what's left. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. A squared divided by A is A. B squared divided by B squared is nothing. It cancels. It's gone. Okay, so now I'm going to put plus 16 divided by 8 is 2. A divided by A cancels. B to the 4th divided by B squared means there's 2 b's left. Plus 64 divided by 8 is 8. A divided by A cancels. 3 b's, take away 2 is 1. So I'm going to write 1 there. So that is that final answer. Okay, so this is where these are kind of optional. If you want to try them, I would consider pausing the video here, trying them on a piece of paper, and then when you feel like you have your answer, go ahead and start the video again. I'll go through the answers here, and then there will be some practice that is required. So these are not required here, but just some extra practice and me showing you some more things that you might run into on your practice. Okay, so looking at number 7 here. The greatest common factor that they have is 5. And if I look, they do not have x's in common because this last term does not have any x's. So all I'm going to do is divide by 5 on each of these terms. Okay, so 15 divided by 5 is 3. I'm leaving the x's there because I didn't do anything with x's. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1, so minus. I'm not going to put the 1, but that x squared is still left, so I'm going to write that. And then negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. So that is that final answer. Okay, looking at number 8 here, 4, 9, and 3. Well, 3 goes into 3 and 9, but it doesn't go into 4. 2 goes into 4, but 2 doesn't go into 3 and 9. So the only common factor that they have is 1. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the variables. Well, they all have r's, so I know that they have something in common. And if you look, the last one, the last term, 3r, only has 1 r that it can have in common. So they only have 1 r in common. Okay, so I'm going to divide each term by r and get what I have left. So 4 divided by 1 is 4. 5 r's, take 1 away, is 4. Okay, plus 9 divided by 1 is 9. 2 r's, take away 1 is 1. And then 3 divided by 1 is 3. And r, take away r is nothing. So there's my final answer. Okay, number 9. 27 and 9, that greatest number that they share is 9. Now I have x's and y's to look at. So x's, let's see, this one has 2, this one has 4, so they have 2 in common, so x squared. For the y's, this one has 3 and this one has 1, so they only have 1 in common. So I'm going to divide by that 9x squared y and see what I have left. So 27 divided by 9 is 3. X squared divided by x squared goes away. Y to the 3rd, take away 1. Dividing by 1 is, I have 2 left, so y squared. Okay, plus 9 divided by 9 is 1, so that's gone. X to the 4th divided by x squared, so I had 4, I'm taking 2 out, so I have 2 left. And then y divided by y is cancels, it's gone. So I have 3y squared plus x squared left. Okay, so that's that final answer. Okay, number 10 here, looking at 12 and 14. The greatest common factor they would have is 2. They have 3 m's in common, and they have 3 n's in common. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 2, m to the third, and n squared. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. The m's cancel, the n's, oh wait, no, the n's, oh, I should be writing a 3 here, my bad. So yeah, the n's canceled. So there's only 6. 12 divided by 2 is 6. I'm not writing any letters there. Then minus 14 divided by 2 is 7. There were 4 m's, I'm taking 3 out, so there's 1 left. And the n, same thing, there were 4, I'm taking 3 out, so there's 1 n left. So that is my final answer for number 10. Okay, moving on to number 11. 7, 14, and 28, the largest number they have in common is 7. Okay, looking at the y's, this has 3, this has 4, this has 3, so they have, whoops, I shouldn't have written that yet, should I? Okay, so this has 3 in common. The x's, this has 2, this has 3, this has 4, so they have 2 in common. And now I can put what they have left. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. Y to the third divided by y to the third is 1. X squared divided by x squared is 1. So I'm actually dividing by the same exact thing that I have here. So that divided by itself is 1. I have to put that 1. Okay, plus 14 divided by 7 is 2. 4y's divided by 3y's is just y. 3x's divided by 2x's is x. And then plus 28 divided by 7 is 4. 3y's divided by 3y's is no y's. 4x's divided by 2x's is 2x's. So there is the final answer. Okay, one more here. When I look at this, the first term doesn't have a number, so it's just a 1. So if that doesn't have anything higher, then that means they don't have a number in common except for 1. So now I want to look, do they have variables in common? Well, all 3 terms have y's. So I know they have some in common. And what do they have in common? They have 5 of them in common. So y to the 5th. Only one term has an x, so they don't have that in common. So I'm just dividing by y to the 5th. So y to the 5th divided by y to the 5th is 1, plus 5y to the 6th divided by y to the 5th is 5y. And then 5y to the 5th x divided by y to the 5th is 5x. So that is the final answer there for number 12. Okay. All right, so some required practice that I would like you to do is to go to Canvas, and on Canvas there's a quiz. It's labeled Period 2, E-Learning Week of March 23rd, number 1. You can take this quiz as many times as you want to try to get whatever score you would like. I'll talk a little bit more in an email again about how I'm doing grades, but you are going to be graded on your practice. The required practice, okay? And then if you feel like you really still want to try to practice and know that you have this because what we're going on to still requires this thinking, there is some optional practice uploaded to Canvas. It's not required. I'm not going to see whether you do it or not, but it can definitely be helpful if you feel like you need more practice. The answers are in that worksheet, so you can do the worksheet and then scroll down and see if you got the right answers. Please email me if you have any questions. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. Have a great day.